Hola! Today we're going to talk about the passive voice. There are two kinds of passive voice. Today we're going to talk about the simple passive voice, when you do not know by whom an action is done. First, it's important to know the difference between the active voice and the passive voice. In the active voice, the subject performs the action. For example, I wash the dog. In the passive voice, the subject is acted upon. The doggy is washed by me. Let's look at how this looks in Spanish. For the active voice, where the subject performs the action, I wash the doggy, I say lavo al perro. When the subject is acted upon, the doggy is washed by me, I would say el perro es lavado por mí. Let's look at another example. When the subject performs the action in active voice, we speak Spanish. When the subject is acted upon with a passive voice, I would say Spanish is spoken in Honduras. In Spanish, help me out if you can, we speak Spanish, we would say hablamos español. For the passive voice, Spanish is spoken in Honduras, we would say se habla español en Honduras. Muy bien. Let's take a very common commercial that you've heard. I'm loving it. That's active voice. To make that passive voice, we would flip it around and say it is being loved by me. Now, there are very common expressions that you've probably heard over and over and over in Spanish. Por ejemplo, ¿cómo se escribe? ¿Cómo se dice? There are others that may not be so familiar to you. ¿Cómo se distingue? ¿Cómo se estructura? Let's look at some common things you might hear. Por ejemplo, México o México. ¿Cómo se escribe y cómo se dice? How is it written and how is it said? Por ejemplo, aquí se habla español y no se permite hablar en inglés. So for formula number 1, our simple passive voice, we use that when we do not know by whom an action is done. Por ejemplo, aviso, se prohíbe comida o bebida en esta área. O no se permite nadar. The first formula for the passive voice is se plus third person singular form of the conjugated verb. If your subject is plural, it's going to be se plus third person plural form of the verb. Your verb and your noun must agree. So let's take some present tense examples. If I have a singular noun like supermarket, and I want to say the supermarket is opened at 8 o'clock, I'm going to start with my se and then my conjugated form of the verb. Since supermarket is singular, my verb is going to be third singular. So I would say se abre el supermercado a las 8. Now with a plural noun like schools, las escuelas, my verb is going to need to become plural so that it agrees. So let's say this together. For schools are open at 6 o'clock, we would say se abren las escuelas a las 6. Muy bien. So it translates into English, is opened and are opened. Now if we're using a different verb tense like the preterite, we use the same formula but we conjugate our verb in the preterite. So we still are going to use third singular form if it's a singular noun, third plural if it's a plural noun. So if we have a singular noun like el collar, and we want to say the necklace was found day before yesterday, it's a completed action, so we're using preterite. Say it with me, we would say, se halló el collar anteayer. However, if our noun is plural, like los pendientes, our verb is going to agree. So for the earrings were found last month, we're going to say, se hallaron los pendientes el mes pasado. Muy bien. We may also want to use the imperfect. If we have a singular noun like canción, we're going to use the third singular form of our verb in the imperfect. So if we want to say that song was sung or used to be sung each year, we are going to say se cantaba esa canción cada año. Or if we have a plural noun like estos bailes, our verb will become plural to agree. So if we want to say these dances were danced each summer or used to be danced each summer, say it with me, we're going to say se bailaban estos bailes cada verano. Now, let's try some of these on our own. You can pause the video and write these down, or just say them out loud if you would like to practice. The flowers are bought in the spring, so we need to think this through. Is it singular or plural? What verb tense do we want? So flowers is plural, and are bought is in the present. ¿Cómo se dice en español? Se compran las flores en la primavera. Muy bien. You might want to try the second one. Pause if you need to. Those keys were lost at the movie theater yesterday. Is it singular or plural? What verb tense do we want? It's plural. It's a completed action, so we want to use the preterite. So in Spanish, ¿cómo se dice? Se perdieron esas llaves en el cine ayer. Muy bien. And our final example that you can do on your own if you want to pause, please do. The homework was done every day. Is it singular or plural? And what verb tense do we want? It's a repeated action, so we want to use third singular form of the imperfect. ¿Cómo se dice en español? Se hacía la tarea todos los días. Muy bien. Now, there's also something called the indefinite subject. You can use say as your indefinite subject, again, when you're not sure by whom an action is done. When you use it in this context, it's only used in the third singular form. 3 very common examples of this, say them with me, are se dice, it is said, one says, people say. Se cree, it is believed, one believes, people believe. Se sabe, it is known, one knows, and people know. Let's look at some examples of these used in context. Read these with me in Spanish, please. Se sabe que la clase de español es interesantísima. En inglés, it is known that Spanish class is extremely interesting. Muy bien. Another example, read it with me. Se cree que los fantasmas no existen. En inglés, it is believed that ghosts do not exist. Muy bien. And our third example, conmigo. Se dice que Graciela es la chica más intelectual de la clase. En inglés, it is said, or people say, that Graciela is the most intellectual girl in the class. So there we are using our say plus third singular as an impersonal say. Some examples that you'll see signs all over in Spanish. These would be some of them. Let's read them together. Se prohíbe fumar. Otro ejemplo. Propiedad privada. Se prohíbe traspasar. Los infractores serán enjuiciados. No se permiten bicicletas y patinetas. Now in this example, we have plural nouns, bicicletas and patinetas, so our verb became plural, permiten. Y el último ejemplo, conmigo por favor. Aviso, no se permiten teléfonos celulares, especialmente en la clase de español, ¿verdad? Muy bien. There's a very common expression that uses a simple passive voice that was made famous by Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez, 2 very famous Hispanic Americans. Say it with me, please. Repitan. Sí se puede. Muy bien. If you're struggling with the passive voice, just remember this. Let's say it 3 times. Ready? Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Muy bien. Y así se usa la voz pasiva. I hope that you've learned something, and please feel free to tune into our other videos with our second kind of passive voice, which we use with word-for-word translations when we do know by whom. Ciao, nos vemos.